And we're on. Hi,
And
Win.
we're live. Hey, Isabel. Good to see you. Hear ya.
Yeah. It's episode 9. We're almost at 10 episodes. Isn't it crazy?
And I know, like, recently, our stats have been, like, really moving up. Like, a lot more listeners.
Yeah.
Actually, where our last guest, Allison, where she works, I'm also connected with a coworker of hers. And her coworker went in to work, like, a few days ago and took a snapshot of the computer at work and sent it to me. They were listening to our podcast on the shift prior.
That is so cool.
It was still up on the computer. Yeah.
That is so neat.
I know.
My brother and sister were in town, and we had a drive to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So it was my sister, my husband, and I driving down to Boston to pick up my brother, and we listened to episode 1. And it was kind of weird to hear, like, it was actually the first time I was listening to episode 1. So,
oh, okay.
yeah, so it was kind of cool, like, to relive it, I guess.
Yeah, and how'd that go?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I do notice that, like, anyway, I notice a little bit of technical stuff, but I'm gonna fix it.
Oh, okay.
That's the perfectionist in me.
Wait, was that the fire alarm episode? Was that where my alarm was going off?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So to all listeners, like, if you've listened to episode 1, I want to know if you were scared, because I jumped off my seat when that alarm went off, and I knew, like, I knew it was gonna happen, but it was so surprising. Like, everyone in the car jumped.
Really? That's so funny.
It's funny. I'm curious to see if other people jump on that alarm. Like, it was really loud.
Oh my goodness. That is hilarious. I wonder, yeah, because that's still our most popular episode that got the most listens of all of them. And so, yeah, I have to wonder what other people have experienced.
I'll have to, yeah. So anyway, listener out there, let us know on our Facebook page, or you can even comment in the podcast. So,
yeah. So Isabel has our word of the day, and it is?
The word that picked me today is purpose.
Purpose.
Yeah.
All right.
And when you say purpose, I guess it's like in the sense of life purpose, like having a purpose in life.
Yeah, because the first thing that every time I hear purpose, it always takes me back to when I was 18. I had just turned 18, and I went, like, after I turned 18, 6 days later, I'm in Navy boot camp. And, you know, I think a lot of people are familiar with Marine Corps drill instructors and Army drill sergeants. I don't know what they call them in the Air Force or Coast Guard, but in the Navy, they call them company commanders.
Okay.
And I remember one of them was a Filipino guy, and it was my first time around Filipinos as an adult. You know, my dad was also in the Navy, and there's a lot of Filipinos in the Navy, so I would have been around it younger, but it was my first time as an adult, and he had a definite strong accent. And I remember he used to tell us, everything has a purpose, but he would say it, everything has a porpoise. And it sounded like porpoise, like dolphin.
The dolphin!
So every time I think of purpose, every time, I always remember as if that was just happening yesterday.
That is so cool. It's stuck with you. I love it. It's just before hopping in, I was telling Austin, I was saying, so what does purpose mean for you? Because I'm always curious on how people perceive purpose.
Yeah.
Kind of explaining, like, that you should always have a purpose, and what he said that kind of, like, gave me an interesting insight. He said, if you don't have a purpose, you're kind of drifting in life. And I thought it was interesting. And what is your perception of, like, life purpose?
I mean, it's a funny time for you to ask me that question, because I'm floating around right now and I don't comprehend that, because even though I've been on this journey for a few years of letting go of so many things, really becoming non-attached, the one thing I still haven't become detached from, and we have had our detachment episode already, but one thing that I haven't become detached from is almost that, a sense of purpose. And I feel like there's no, I don't believe there's a such thing as ultimate mastery. I don't care which monk or Indian mystic you go to or shaman. I don't believe there's a such thing as ultimate mastery, because there's always something more to relinquish and to gain in that relinquishment. So, but I do feel that where I'm going now, what is about to happen, has been sort of on the verge for the last few years, when I started slipping into these like hyper reality states where I think a lot of people might experience them with hallucinogenic drugs. I've worked with ayahuasca and mushrooms in San Pedro, which is mescaline, all in shamanic senses down in Peru, and not a lot. So my psychedelic experiences, as far as how many times I've consumed it, is very minimal, but from what I've gained from it is about as much as anybody could gain from these. And since the last time, which was about 3.5 years ago before this episode, that I had ayahuasca, I started to go into these flipped moments essentially afterwards, where I'd get super, super paranoid. Okay. And I would start to see the dissolution of all structure, to the point where I didn't feel that my heart was actually beating or a thing, or my mind or my breath. I couldn't connect to anything. There a couple of years ago, when the tantric stuff started to come into me, it happened again really, really big, when this time I was just laying down in a tent on my yoga teacher training retreat in the mountains of Idaho, next to this little river, and I could just hear the river going at night. And all of a sudden, it just my sweat. I leapt into this hyper reality again, and I never intend to. And when I did, I started to I couldn't find my way out of it. It's not like you could just snap out of it. Even opening my eyes, like nothing made sense. Yeah. So, this time it was like, you're going to be able to move trees. You're going to be able to do this and do that. And I'm like, I can't even, it was just overwhelming. Now, fast forward to the last couple of months, and I've been starting to feel that's occurring in my day-to-day life without going into these moments that are overwhelming me. Now it's almost like on a day-to-day thing, sort of a dissolution of structure, the way that I would always experience it in those moments. Yeah. But that dissolution of structure, I realize what's holding on to it is two things. One, we talked about play on our last episode. So play and joy on a really true ecstatic level with zero trajectory, you're just showing up for it. That is actually how you navigate, from what I can tell right now, how you navigate this dissolution of structure. Well, the dissolution of structure comes from still the need to identify with purpose. Yeah. Yeah. And I remember, now that we're talking, it's so funny, because before you and I started doing this podcast, so a couple months ago, 3 months ago, I had this thing, and I put it up on my Instagram, and it was like, what happens when you give up the need to fulfill anybody's expectation of you, and essentially anybody's expectation of your purpose, and you to give it up yourself? What happens? Yeah. So it's funny you're asking, because I feel like there's, in my journey over the last few years, there's been this almost intentional, not from my mind, but an intentional journey into knowing what it's like to not have a purpose. Right.
But do you feel that there's a purpose for you to be on Earth?
I don't. And on my journey, I found, over the last few years, I have found a lot that points me to that answer. And that's where the mind starts to freak out, and I start to feel like I have no heart, no breath, no nothing. Yeah. That there's no solidity and walls, all of it, which is actually the truth. So I feel like by letting go of the need to even identify with purpose, you get closer and closer to the truth of the green screen that we call Earth, the illusion that we call Earth. And maybe then how to operate truly as one with the magic energy flow, as opposed to solid objects. Yes. So I think Austin is right. If you want to be just a human being living a human life, then I don't know, to a degree, for some people that's true, but for other people, their human life is to essentially just kind of wander around, almost what seems aimless to the rest of us.
Yeah,
So
and
I don't even know if that's quantifiable.
well, I think there's like two paradigms here. There's one that is, like you said, the human experience, and I see it like if you are in the ego self, in the human experience, and you
Mm,
have no purpose, you're going to be in despair, which is also the ego human, like you're going to be into that emotional
mhm,
place of
mhm,
depression
mm,
or hopelessness,
mm,
and but if you're capable of connecting with the other paradigm, which is like your spiritual self, and that aspect of knowing the illusion, I guess
mm.
purpose can have no purpose. Purpose,
Ah,
no place, right? Like in that,
right.
in some ways. And it's funny because now, like hearing you talk about this, it brings me back to last week where Allison, your wife, in our last episode,
Mm,
yes, she did channeling for me.
mm,
And during the channeling, I could see that she was puzzled with something, and I was wondering like what puzzled her, like why is she all confused? And she was sharing with me after. She said it's so bizarre. She said it's the first time I read for someone like you. It's like you have no purpose in life. It's like there's no purpose for you to be on earth. You're just here to be here. You chose to
mm,
be here just for fun, and you have many
mm,
choices in your life, and you
mm,
don't have any like big life lessons to learn. You've done all that work before, and
mm,
you're just basically here to play and enjoy your time. There's no purpose, and that really like hit me in my ego in a way, because I was like, oh, like you mean like there's no point for me to be here? Right?
mm,
The
mhm,
ego self always want to be like, I want to be the healer, or I want to
mhm,
be this, I
mhm,
want to be the person
mhm,
that enlight others or awaken others or whatsoever. But then I started thinking about it, and it rings so true, because
mm,
I've never felt like, I don't know, like I have fun at work, but it's never been a calling to be a project manager. But I love my job.
mhm,
And I was a counselor before. I've done so many things in my life, but never felt like I had a calling to go in a specific field or doing something specific. I've always enjoyed what I do. And as soon as I stop enjoying it, I move on to something else. So
mhm, mhm.
it's kind of interesting.
I feel multiple things with that. I can connect with that because, again, if the listeners haven't heard us before, I was 20 years Navy.
Hmm.
That was all about purpose. And that started when I was 10, going, that's it. That's the only thing in the world that I want to do.
Yeah.
At the time, it was Army. A few years later, my stepdad had like what we called maybe a yearbook in high school, something similar for the Marine Corps. He had his book, and I would look through that. And when he was in the Marine Corps, he went to boot camp before Vietnam. So I'd look through that and be like, oh my God, maybe it's the Marines for me. So now, up until maybe I was 16, 17, around there, it was Army, Marines, Army, Marines. But I was totally obsessed with all military movies. The ones that threw me a little bit were the Navy ones. But my dad had been in the Navy. I don't know. I wanted to be in combat. That's what it was all about.
Yeah.
And the Navy was on ships and whatever else, except the SEALs, which I knew so little about. But anyway, so my dad called randomly and between my junior and senior year and said, "What are you going to do with your life?" I was like, "I don't know. I'm talking to the Marine Corps recruiters." And he's like, "Let me talk to you about the Navy." Anyway, I did it. So you have to think, like, just in that story alone, like I started off with one purpose, and you could say, well, I was 10 and then I was 14. Like, what did I really know? But
Yeah.
I followed through with that. I got out, I joined the Navy. I got out after 6 years. I was out for a year and a half, and I was looking inside the gate, the fence line of the first base I was stationed at in Southern California, and I just felt like I was missing my purpose,
Hmm.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, I just felt like I was supposed to be back in uniform,
Okay.
and that I wanted to be a SEAL.
Okay.
So I came back in order to, one, be back in uniform, and two, to go through SEAL training, which I accomplished. I didn't make it all the way through. But going to SEAL training, I fixed all the things that were going on in my body, where I was sick, I was depressed, I was super thin, I was never well.
Okay.
You know, so SEAL training didn't become my life, but it became the way for me to become an empowered human being who could make choices on his own, who could feel good in his body and not sick anymore, and blah blah blah. So my purpose was then, it was a momentary purpose. And so I have to wonder, based off of what you just said and what I'm saying, is our purpose just based off whatever lesson we're wanting to learn at the moment?
Yeah, exactly.
And we might choose to learn that lesson all our entire life, which a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, more so since the Industrial Revolution, I think people, and then the Great Depression, but people have really been like, okay, I got to do this, and I'm going to do it from the day I start working until the day that I freaking die or retire.
Right.
But we don't have to do that anymore. In our world now, like, you can do exactly what you and I have done, just switch gears all the time and try different things. I wonder if it's that, but if we had to maybe name one sole purpose, it just feels like still our last episode, play.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Play and in some ways letting go of that need, to always have everything planned, like you're saying, like just go with it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we could say across the board, again, whether you listened or not listened to our last episode about play, you could say, like, Donald Trump, is he playing? To the angry person who's triggered by Donald Trump, who still has to deal with whatever it is that Donald Trump is triggering in them,
Yeah.
the answer would be no. But
Yeah.
they're not playing either, because if they were, they wouldn't be triggered by Donald Trump anymore.
Right.
The other person who's maybe not triggered by Donald Trump, or is like a pro-Trump supporter, might be like, no, he's playing really well. He's playing the game really well.
Yeah.
So play, and that's just one topic, but play is just like whatever we're showing up to do. We are playing. We're playing a role.
Yeah.
We can always choose to stop playing the way that we're playing, though.
Absolutely. Or change role in the game, right?
So what do you feel then about purpose, like, with all of this?
I have a hard time with it. I feel like it served the ego really well. And and sometimes, like if you put it in the spiritual community, I just feel like it's nice to say, oh, my purpose is to be a master Reiki, and intuitively, like, that's my calling, or my purpose on earth is to heal others. Like, it's so ego driven when I hear it that way and see it that way. So I'm wondering sometimes if it's just something that we human being created in order to have a false sense of being spiritually connected.
That's exactly my assessment.
Yeah.
Because every time I hear that from people who call themselves enlightened or awakened or spiritual,
Yeah.
it always really, really activates something in me. What I've discovered now about me being, just from my experience, every time I'm triggered by something, and especially in the spiritual community, I'm triggered because I don't understand my truth in it.
Right.
I'm not necessarily triggered because I'm still carrying whatever it is that they're, I mean, maybe I might still be, if somebody's in strong self-worth issues and it's triggering me, I might still have some self-worth cleansing to do.
Yeah.
That remains a constant. But I've also discovered that when I'm being triggered by what you were just talking about, that it's because I don't either understand what they're really trying to say, or I don't understand the grander aspect of what that is and why they or anybody would say something of that nature. And so I make it my quest now to not be so driven to prove that person or those people wrong. And I don't make it my quest to purge myself of whatever it is that's being triggered by them. I make it my quest to go, like Tony Robbins always says, fascinating to be observant, as we've talked about before in other episodes, to be the observer and to go, okay, I want to know why they're saying this, because it makes me feel claustrophobic. And well, I feel claustrophobic because they probably feel claustrophobic because they feel stuck into this lifestyle that they're trying to create for themselves and lock themselves into that has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah. Huh.
I feel like you're right. I feel like, no, if you're trying to say your life purpose is to be a Reiki master across the board, I can guarantee you that isn't your life purpose. 100%. We can't say yet what your life purpose is, but I can say of almost anybody that says my life purpose is this, to be a doctor or to be an attorney or to be this or to hold space or to be like, you're all wrong. You're wrong. That's not your life purpose, because now you're locking yourself into something, and your life purpose is not to be locked into anything.
Right. Because for me, like, everyone has the same life purpose on Earth, and it's to experience the human experience. Like,
yeah, whoa.
Like for me,
I mean, what else do you need to say?
Of that, right?
Wow, Isabel, there you go again. See, this is, and I know I'm talking a lot, but you mentioned your session with Allison. Now, remember, you and I exchanged sessions a while ago, and I got for you some information too when I did my session for you, and I was like, and then since then I've been like, you're just here to have a human experience. That's it. You don't have to operate as a guru, because you're already that. You've already achieved all that in other versions, other dimensions, other lifetimes. You've already achieved all that. So you're just here to just go, what's it like to just be human?
Yeah.
And every time you say something like you just did, it's just like, it's so precise, and it's so funny because you just don't even realize what you're delivering. You're just delivering pure truth.
It's funny. Yeah. But yeah, I guess it all sums up to that, right? Like, we're all here to experience life, and I can get that some people have a calling to do something, but it goes back to what you said, which is play and joy. And if what you're doing brings joy to you, and you're playing, you're enjoying it, like, you're going to do it until it doesn't do that anymore. Right? So I don't know. I just feel like for some people, they might be doing that their whole life and enjoy it. Other people, and like you were talking, like the generations, I'm feeling like all the different generations are starting to connect more with their spiritual side and connect more with that pure purpose, which is to enjoy the human experience.
That's what you said.
Yeah. Yes. And without suffering. I think that's where we need to learn.
Right.
Like,
right.
And I think that the more it's happening, the more you see it in generations shifting, because our parents I remember like my parents saying stuff like work should be difficult, or work shouldn't be fun. Like, work is not about like enjoying it. It's a way to make money and bring money home. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's shifting in the generations, because we're starting to realize that, okay, like there's more to life than just like being miserable your whole life. It doesn't have to be suffering. And I don't know, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it totally does. And and then we get caught up in teachers, the Buddha or Buddhists, because not every Buddhist quote is from the Buddha himself, or other spiritual teachers of the modern day who say things about suffering, like Eckhart Tolle. I told this to a coworker the other day. I said, "Did you know that Eckhart Tolle said that without a master, you're just suffering? You should find a master and you'll stop suffering." I mean, he verbatim said that. And I was like, I wanted to throw the device that I read that on, like whatever, I was my computer or whatever I read it on. I was like, what a fucking dick. I mean, where do you get off, Eckhart Tolle? Like, you're some fucking, like, everybody's got to come to you to stop suffering just because you sold millions of books and you found enlightenment sitting on a fucking park bench for 2 years? Like, are you kidding me? You're a dick.
I like to think that they use word the wrong way. Like,
What?
you are the master of your own self. I don't know.
Oh my God. I'm like, if you're really enlightened, you would know what you just said, Isabel. If you're truly enlightened, that's common knowledge at this point for people on a journey. I'm surrounded now because I've gone through all the like with those kind of assholes, you know, whether they're Eckhart Tolle or trying to be the next Eckhart Tolle. Like, I'm done with that now. I'm only surrounded by people who just like flutter in. And they're like.
Yeah.
They're saying things like you're saying, like it's just like in their early 20s, and they just so gently are like, they know that we're all the masters.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like you need a master to stop suffering. You just need to make the choice to stop suffering, and that's as simple as that. And then say, now just let me be guided out of this. You know. Now people will go, what if you're like being held captive in human trafficking or whatever? There's a lot of human trafficking former victims who have been like, what they could never take from me was my true love for myself. Yeah. So suck that if you want to say, what about those people? Suffering is a choice.
Unreal. Like, it's funny because, well, it's funny and not. I feel sad for people who do not have the same experience as us going through. Like, for me, I've been so lucky. Like, first of all, my Reiki master, Jocelyn Clark, she's amazing because she always said, like, you're not the healer. Like, it's the energy, and it's the person you're technically healing, which she always said we weren't healing others, that is doing their own healing. All you're doing is channeling the energy, and they do the job, and they do the work. And she always taught me that way, which makes us fairly humble in the sense of, like, knowing that it's not me doing anything. And second, she always said, like, some Reiki master, like, what's his name? Is it Randall? Or, you know, there's this top like Reiki like guy that owns a lot of the Reiki business. And technically,
I've seen his website before. I'm pretty sure.
Technically, if you're not certified by one of his teacher, they don't recognize your Reiki certificate, like that type of stuff. And for me, it's like BS. Like, that's bullshit. Like, seriously.
Because Asui himself, where Reiki came from, said that Reiki should be as big as and as diverse as the amount of people who worked with Reiki energy. And that you don't even need to go to a teacher if you tune into the energy. So if you go back to the original, again, a bunch of dickheads getting in the way.
And they release their own type of Reiki too, which for me, I'm like not at all attracted to, because I'm like, Reiki should come from you, from your heart, like from your own connection to the energy, which can be different from anyone. And I'm so grateful that my teacher always taught me that. And she always said, like, if it doesn't ring true to you, it's just that there's another way, and that's okay too. And it's just been amazing. Like, for me, my journey, I've never had anyone on my path that said that's the one way and there's no other way. But I feel like probably some listeners are going through some kind of training, like shaman training is similar to that. Like, it's like one way, or so there's a lot of training out there that your master will tell you, like, this is the only way. And if someone is not doing the ceremony the exact same way that I do it, it's BS. It's not gonna work. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going on.
No, that's awesome. And not only that, but I've discovered this year, and I've been guided into the discovery that ceremony is bullshit too. It's all bullshit. And this is from my higher self. Like, it's like, enjoy it if you want, but the ceremony is you showing up and doing something. That's the ceremony. That's why all of life is sacred. All people are sacred. All the world is sacred. There's nothing that is not. You might resonate with Sedona, Arizona more than you resonate with, I don't know, Asheville, North Carolina, where I am right now. But that doesn't mean that one is more sacred than the other. That just means you're a fucking asshole if you say that. You know, everybody's a fucking asshole. I'm an asshole. We think that we have answers. This Osho said, when somebody said, and this is in one of Osho's books, and it's like, I don't remember which one, but it's one of his, like, sannyasins or just somebody who came to him. So it was like, Osho, like, so you talk about this and this. So what's the way then? And Osho was like, the way? There is no way.
And that's so true. There's not one way. Yeah. Yeah. So it works for you.
So then tying this to your purpose, I think we're answering it in all these different ways that we're talking about. Purpose is like whatever you want it to be. At any given moment, you can always change. That's your purpose, to have the human experience. I mean, you can't say it any better than you've already said it twice, Isabel. Like, it's your life purpose is to be here and have an experience.
And to just be. You don't even have to do anything. That's the other piece, right?
At all.
Your purpose, of everything. And ceremony is actually a good place to talk about purpose, because a lot of time people will have a specific purpose to a ceremony. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about full moon ceremony. So we just had a full moon. Like, my Facebook feed always get full pack of full moon ceremony. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you need to have a white candle, and you need to have this crystal and this and that and this. And it always makes me laugh, because for me, like, one, I don't do ceremony because I feel I don't enjoy them. So that's one thing. So it's not part of my purpose. I don't enjoy them. But I will set an intention, and as soon as the intention is out, like, things unfold. I feel like you're a trained Reiki too, and they have all those techniques and symbols and all this, in a very specific way that you can do it. But now I'll just set the intention. I don't have to go through everything, and it still works. So you're right. It's whatever you believe in. It's whatever you choose it to be, basically.
In people, you can easily say Reiki and Voodoo and all these things are the exact same, and they actually, that is 100% true. That's 100% true. And in some ways, you could even say Reiki and Voodoo are a placebo effect psychologically. Now, when I do Reiki, I tell people all sorts of shit. Like, it's not even really Reiki. I mean, not by the standards of some jackass named Randall, but like, it's like very shamanic. It's infused with lots of different things that have been guided along the way. Yeah. And so when I do a session, I might tell people who have never experienced it before a few things, but I can feel the voice in my head just being like totally mischievous. Like, yeah, fuck with them. Tell them that they might experience this, or they might experience it, like, to get them really like, oh, what am I going to go into here? Like, what am I doing? This is like a thing that my system carries, and I have to do it. Yeah. And then other times I might be like, well, this could be like, but it just depends. Everybody, I'm already hearing what they want to hear. So I'm communicating to them into that voice that they have coming out of them energetically. And so, but the bottom line is they'll have an experience for sure, because we are doing something when we work with energy. We don't even know what we're doing 100%.
No.
Because it's something is working. We're basically holding one wire, and we're holding another wire, and we're like making the connection in between, and then whatever happens. Where it gets funky is when we have intention, and that's what I don't like. I don't like the touch or the experience of all those healers and Reiki masters who are putting their intention in. Like, I can feel it like 100 miles away. Like, dude or woman, get the fuck off me. Like, get your intention away from me. It's like so obtuse. It's like a blunt object to my head. Get away from me.
Yeah.
But when somebody is just like a clear open channel,
right,
then it's just like, okay. And then I might have a really big activating session, or I might just feel really, really like mellow and calm. It still has a lot to do with the person who's providing the session.
Yeah.
And if they can really actually read my energy well, and I'm always aware if they can or not, then what they bring through really is in harmony with my system. And that is a good channel. That's a good energy channel. Now, to me, that takes away the voodoo, which actually voodoo still has a bad name. Voodoo is still about unity and energy and oneness. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So is Reiki, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with life purpose, and I having just said all that, some of us are better energy channels. For instance, of all the things, some of us are better presidents, some of us are better popes, some of us are better teachers in a school, some, you know, whatever. So we all have things that we're just kind of like naturally better at.
Yeah.
So our purpose really still seems to have something to do with what we can. Well,
that's a good
we
point.
could be talking about purpose or life work. I don't know. It gets a little fuzzy here.
It's pretty much the same, but I think you're right. And I think there is some kind of purpose in that sense, but it still goes back to enjoyment, and it still goes back to joy, pleasure, play. Like you're still like your inner child is happy. Like, do you know, like it's all the things that are still connected. And
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's the purpose, is to find that space, basically.
Yeah. I mean, so that's it then. So when you say that Austin was like, well, if you don't have a purpose, you're just kind of floating around untethered.
Yeah.
What if your greatest bliss is to float around untethered?
Yeah. Well, that's it. If you enjoy that.
When I was in the military, I hated those people. I hated hippies. I hated Greenpeace warriors. I hated rainbow children. I hated drum circles, and I did go to one. And all of that stuff, I just absolutely, it was an aberration to me. Right. Meanwhile, me being in the military was all of those exact same sentiments from, and still is, to a lot of the world.
Yeah.
But here I am. So, and, you know, having experienced those feelings that I did towards all those experiences in life has almost made it even sweeter for me to arrive in the places that a lot of those people embodied just authentically. Now, I didn't like the ones who projected, but I don't like military people who project, you know, and I don't like anybody who, you know, I mean, I love them, but those are experiences that are hard for me to be around.
Right.
Like that strong, like, but because it's not authentic. What you know, like you could say that here I am projecting a lot on this podcast, but and that could be offensive to you, and I get it, you know, because I mean, I literally understand what it's like to receive like somebody's like dogma, you know, and so when I went to those, when I was around those kind of people, especially like drum circles, and I felt like what they were trying to do is just convince me that being in the military was wrong, and let me show you through love. This is like, love feels like this, and if you understand that love feels like this, you'll stop being in the military. I'm like, I'm gonna punch you in the fucking head. Don't tell me what love is about, because whatever it's about, I may not have the answer, but I know you don't have it either.
Exactly. Because it all goes back to acceptance, and I like when you say it has to be authentic and genuine, because that's it. Like me, it's the life purpose of someone to just be drifting, but me, and the difference is that they're happy in that state. They're not lost. They don't feel like they're wasting their time. They don't feel like they're not doing anything with their life. They're enjoying that state.
Because what if in another dimension, another life or whatever, they were Hitler, they were a general of a great army. What it, you know, and this is their lifetime to just go, oh man, I'm just taking it easy. Yeah. We really have to talk reincarnation to understand, I think, a lot of this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's true, because I'm sure like if you come on Earth at a time that your previous life was like, I don't know, something that you want to experience completely different, right? Like, and that's a choice. It's okay.
We could even, I mean, really, I was thinking, well, we can even bring back to this life. So what we're saying then, if I still had the same mentality that I did when I was in the Navy, that I have to wait until I'm of retirement age before I've earned my right to float around. When I'm too fucking old and beat down, my body doesn't work, my mind doesn't work, I'm ill. I have to wait until then, when I have grandkids who barely want to know me, in order for me to float around and have a good time, but we'll justify it at that point.
Yeah, so true. It's so true. Like, how many people save all their money and always say, like, oh, I'll do this when I retire. I'll do that. And meanwhile, it's like the thing they always wanted to do their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
That is so sad.
Yeah. I was just on a job the other day with landscaping. It was a dentist's house, and his wife was there. I'm gonna guess because her children were there who were school age, and it was in the middle of the week. Gonna guess she is homeschooling them.
Okay.
When she found out I had been in the military, all she wanted to do was talk about my experiences, like what was my favorite country, talk about how she's been wanting to travel. She's probably my age, which is, I'm 48 at this time. So she's talking about how when she was getting ready to graduate college, she was really wanting to go to Africa and study the Ebola virus in person, because whatever she was studying, it was about biology, or maybe, biology and medicine or something. But her husband was about to graduate as a dentist, and they chose to go through that, and they let him get work, blah, blah, blah. So here she is, like, graying hair and a total beauty queen still, like definitely supermodel quality. But you can, and I imagine that a woman like that who still looks that good, probably when she was younger had all these aspirations, combined with her natural beauty. So she had inner beauty and her natural beauty that's sustainable, and desires to go out and really be enjoying the world. And now she became more of a trophy wife, and a mom homeschooling children. And I know Dennis, I could read the energy. Her husband's out philandering. So here she is, a trophy wife at home taking care of the kids on this big ranch that's far too big for them, as she described herself. And now she's getting to the point when she's talking with me, you could just feel it on her that she feels defeated, like traveling may never happen for her, for joy and for experience.
Yeah.
Now, you could also say on the converse side of that her life purpose was to come in and do all that and be a mom. And that could be, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know. But there has to be a way to mitigate these things.
Yeah. And it's amazing, because the more we talk, the more I realize that purpose is really joy and play. And if you lack that, we have an epidemic in the world that content is a good thing. Mm-hmm. And content is not a good thing. Like, for me, content is like, I'm settling for what it is right now because I don't believe there's anything else.
Right.
And that's what it sounds like for her. She's content. She's probably okay. Right. She's probably not miserable, but yeah.
She didn't feel miserable to me. Yeah. Just like, did I miss my mark? Did I miss my time by,
Yeah, just longing for something else. Like, am I like, because if you don't fulfill that space in you, like the sense of purpose, or that sense of like, okay, wanting to do something more, if you don't feel that, like, you're going to try to fill it up, I'm sure, with material or with whatever that is like physical aspect, whether it's like material, food, like just name it, drugs, sex, whatever. Like, that's how you're going to try to fulfill that hole, which is technically pleasure. It's that fun and joy. And it could transfer into the purpose, basically.
I think what I'm really experiencing with this episode with you, Isabel, is that I'm just throwing a lot of shit out there. You're able to just like take it and funnel it, and it's just so beautiful. Like, of all the episodes so far, you're like really on point today. I really feel like you understand this topic. You started off by saying you judged the word purpose. You didn't really know what to do with it because that was the word that came to you. But here you are, like, you're so connected to it. It's like you just know it.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more, there's some things in life that I've learned that you think that everyone know about it, but when you start talking about it, like, people aren't really experiencing the same thing as you, and that's how I get purpose.
Right.
I've always been someone very driven, very motivated, but I've always been someone that do a lot of different things. And it's because I think I've always been driven to go toward that sense of play and fun and joy. Like it's like almost as if I came to earth saying like there's no way that I'm going to be in this suffering mode. Like I don't want to be there. And if it's no longer fun, I'm moving on.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
whoever follows, great, but if you don't follow, it's fine too.
Right.
So I just feel like that is something that for me has always been, I've never questioned my purpose. And I've never thought about it either until Allison said that I didn't have any purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she didn't say it that way, but it's
Right.
that for me. But instead of scaring me and being like, oh my God, I have no purpose, it was like, yeah, that's it. That's so true. I never connected the dots, but yeah.
Well, you know, when she and I were living together, and yeah, and if you haven't been listening to our episode, to our podcast long, at this point, what are we in June? Last October, I left. So it's been almost a year here soon, where not Allison and I have not been living together. And throughout our time together, we found so many things. But one thing that one repeated problem that I would have come up that I couldn't resolve was my sense of lack of purpose. So it's funny. And every time, like I would ask that question when Allison would be in a channeled space, and it was always like, play, you're already living your purpose. You don't need to do anything different. And if I was in a channel space and would somehow be prompted to ask the question, it would never answer it. It would just like take me to one dimension and see myself in one dimension, take me to another dimension and see myself in another dimension. And I'm like, what the fuck? If I'm so many things in so many different dimensions, what the hell do I? It's like being an octopus, like with unlimited tentacles. Like, what do I do with all this? Like, because I feel miserable on Earth when because like, and this is giving credit to what Austin said, you're just floating around. I wasn't comfortable with floating around, so I didn't know what to do with all this. And oh my God, it's just hitting me. So then the other day, Friday, today, what are we on here? Sunday. So 3 days ago at work, I get to the job site. I had to divert from the rest of the crew to go pick up a bunch of rock and then meet them. When I got there, it was a couple hours in because we couldn't find the rock at the rock yard. Anyway, I get there, and there's a 24-year-old who's one of our masters, one of the ones I'm talking about, who just like, he gets so much. Like it's so gentle, and he would communicate the same way you and I are about people, but in a very kind way. I'm more fiery, you know. But he goes, so hey, Wind, now you know we've all picked an animal of the day. So what's your animal of the day? We haven't done it before. I'm like, first I didn't even think about it. I said octopus. I'm like, where did octopus come from? And the first thing that came through me, and I'm gonna out myself for the first time in this episode, is now I mentioned earlier that I'm connected with a girl that Allison works with, and that's who took the picture of our podcast on display at their work center. So that girl and I are also in a relationship, and she has octopus, like she has an octopus actually tattooed on her. Oh, cool. And so I thought, oh, I'm just in her energy right now. And then as soon as I said octopus, I'm like, oh, wait, that's not my story. But it was like, it was coursing through me like it was my story, and just accept it. And as soon as I said it, Alex goes, oh, so you're going to like glide through the day. That's going to be your day. And I certainly did. And it wasn't until I glided through the day, and throughout the day, we drove different places or whatever. I kept seeing octopus signs here in Asheville, North Carolina. There was octopus signs everywhere. I'm like, what is going on? And since then, I've seen octopus upon octopus, and I'm like, oh, well, there's a reason why this girl is my now extra partner, however we want to say it, because if that's an energy she carries, that's an energy that my life purpose has been calling me towards, whatever my life purpose, whatever we want to play, that play has been calling me towards, to just be like multifaceted, multiple tentacles, and just gliding and floating through the water, just like making that my thing. And that is going to be not just a passing phase, but an integration that occurs. And so when I have this integration, it'll be interesting to see what I'll understand about play and purpose at that point, because that is literally taking me away from structure.
Yeah, exactly.
But what makes it hard to float around is when you're attached. That's what makes it hard to float around. And you have to find out, what are you attached to? You want to stay attached, that's fine. My life purpose, I know, is to not be attached. I know that detachment is my life purpose. I mean, play is, but play meaning to detach from everything in order to get to 100% of my playful energy experience.
That is so cool. It's really interesting to hear like all the things falling together, and the more like you talk about it, like you're right, like it is a life purpose, but yet it's I don't know how to explain it, but it's the perfect way example of synergy, which I love. Because synergy is the concept of taking everything and it falls all together, right? Like it's like that unity, it's like everything falls and combined together. And life purpose is exactly that. It's we all have the same life purpose, which is to experience the human experience, to live it fully, but yet we all experience it differently. And it comes to us in a different way, and that's the synergy. It's the culmination of like everything coming together to form that one thing, but yet composed of so many things. I don't know if you're following me, but
100%. Oh, 100%. I'm with you.
So it's kind of cool to hear you talk about it, because it's true. It is your life purpose. It's moving. It's a moving target, which I think is a concept that we didn't always have of life purpose. Like for some people, I'm here for one thing.
Right.
But yet, what if life purpose was a moving target?
Well, maybe they might be onto something though. Like maybe because of, if we brought in reincarnation, maybe in other lifetimes they've been doing so many different things that their level of mastery involves this lifetime being just one thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Maybe that is their play, because everything we do is play. We have to understand it from a cosmic perspective to understand what that means. Everything is play.
Yeah.
Maybe their level of play in this particular lifetime, maybe they truly authentically, but that's the thing. Going back to authenticity, when we were talking about that, you can feel when somebody is being authentic to their message, or maybe they just don't know. They feel it, but they don't know. There's that energy.
Yeah.
But there's a definite energy that people emit when they're saying, I'm supposed to be this, but 100% you can feel that is not true.
Right.
Right.
So good. Because the person that comes in mind is like Mother Teresa. Like her life purpose, I feel like she fulfilled it and she enjoyed it, and it was the one thing she did her whole life. And
yeah, right. Yeah, it's true. I mean, she could have at any time chosen to do something different, though, and that's the beauty of life.
Yeah, but she didn't. Yeah, and she seemed happy.
From what we know, yeah. How do we know? I mean,
didn't know her.
She's got a lot of critics. I mean, they would say no, she wasn't. Wow, it's all subjective.
It's so subjective.
It's all subjective, and it's subjective. On subjectivity, it's subjective because I would tie that back to my massage school teacher who said we can never pretend to know what anybody is here to learn or to teach.
No,
we can't. We could try. It's part of the fun of being a stupid human being is to pretend that we know so much, but we don't know what Mother Teresa was here to learn or to teach. And could she have been here to learn or to teach what she did in many other ways? I would believe the answer is yes.
Yeah.
But she clearly chose a path of service, and she followed it through to the end.
That's it. Yeah. But it's fascinating talking about that, because it makes you think, like, if the purpose is play or like joy, it makes it so much easier. Well, not for decision making, like choices. Like, imagine telling like your teenager, just have fun. It's all about having fun. Life is about that.
Yeah. Well, I think what's wrong with, I mean, and I think a lot of parents probably do tell their children that,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
I think a lot of parents would struggle with their kid coming home and say, "I'm not going to seek any education because I just want
mhm.
to have fun."
And I bet you that happens a lot. I bet you that some parents, because I think I've been around parents who are like, who answer that kind of this way. And I almost had the same kind of parenting from my mom, but it's kind of not quite. But I have seen other parents go, well, why? Well, first of all, some just say, you're right, I'm going to homeschool you. And others who are like, no, 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 it's going to be better. Like, you're going to assimilate, you're going to accumulate social skills and all these things. What you choose to do after you graduate is up to you. Not the forceful way, but just kind of like the explanative way,
Right.
like where they're just like, here's why I'm going to have you still keep going to school.
Yeah.
Because when you're done, you're going to appreciate you're going to be able to extract things from the experience, and then you can make choices all you want. But I'm naming two of billions of examples out there, right? We have 8 billion people, so I don't know, like, what do you tell your children? I still don't think there's 100% one answer.
No, there's not, and there's nothing wrong about saying you should have fun. All I'm saying is like it must be hard to do. I don't have kids, so
Maybe some of our listeners have that experience, and they'd be able to share with us their experience with that.
right. What do you do with life purpose when you have kids? Like how do you bring it up? Like I know it's not necessarily a subject you bring up, like sexuality is a subject you bring up with your kids, but still,
Mm,
like where are you going in life is such an important conversation. Mm.
mm. It is. It is in a way. I mean, I feel like maybe to me, what feels like a more important question is, how do we take all that we've talked about in this episode and our previous episodes and in episodes yet to come? How do we formulate all that into raising a child with that comprehension?
Oh my
It's still also knowing that that child has their own life path that we don't even know about.
God. I would love to have someone as a guest that have gone through that, like have been able to. Can you imagine being with a parent that is very aware their spiritual self, like very aware, and yet teaching it to their child? Like I'm,
Mm.
I would be so curious to see how that unfolds and how you do it.
Yeah, I would too. We're putting the intention in there, so that person's going to show themselves to us now. I
Yeah.
want to know that as well.
It would be fascinating. I would be fascinating, and to actually have like the child there too, right, and talk about their experience. And anyway,
Mm.
it would be kind of like interesting. I don't have kids, so
So,
for me it's always been interesting to think of it, because if I was to have a child right now, I would totally raise them with that spiritual side of them.
hmm but would you raise them from your understanding of it, or with a total allowance for what, and let them be the teacher of what they're here to work with, and you then just uh, provide provide guidance along that path?
Yeah,
It's a very symbiotic relationship. That's a tough balance, but I think we can do it as humans.
I think I would bring it up in the sense of like, here's what I believe. You don't have to believe in it, and that's how I see things. But I'm curious to see how you see things and
Yeah.
what's your experience. And you know, I was raised in a family that was Christian, and but yet they never forced it upon us to believe the same
Mm-hmm.
way they did believe. I remember my dad having a conversation like years ago about how he saw homosexuals, because he was saying that for him he was raised in a way that was not okay, and for him it was so hard to change that belief, but he was so
Mm-hmm.
open about talking about it, and it was just interesting. Like I didn't feel any anger from him or any like these people shouldn't exist. He was just
Mm-hmm.
trying to, you could tell that
Communicate.
struggling with the belief and then what he could hear like outside of the belief. So
Yeah.
And I was always raised that way, which for me allowed me to really be open-minded, but yet still have my own belief, and it was okay. I never really felt judged about it. Mm.
Right, right, right. It's interesting. I mean, every other episode, we when we get into the word that we've had show up for the episode, there's so many things that can really come out. And I think that's the beauty of doing it the way that we do it, where the word comes, we don't talk about it until we get live, because we don't actually try and put parameters
Yeah.
on what should be,
Yeah.
and therefore everything really kind of leads to, there's so much ambiguity there's, and
Yeah.
I think that's the truth with purpose. And again, like if somebody's in an energy field where they believe their life purpose is to be a healer, well, then that's the energy they've created, because that's what they're creating that, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of decreating every single thing that I've ever believed in,
Hmm.
in order to discover what play really means, unrestricted, and feeling satisfied, feeling satiated that I had a 20-year career in a very linear, disciplined organization that I am truly grateful
Yeah.
for so many reasons, like, so I had that sense of curiosity,
Yes.
totally satisfied now, what it was like to live that. Now it's 8.5 years later, and it's a long, slow trickle of dissolving that. One, dissolving it, but two, respecting it, not just cutting it off, going cold turkey, saying, okay, that was that, now here's this. Like, I'm in a long transition period where I'm bringing the entire experience with me, and at times that's painful, but I've also tried to just go sever it, and that was really abrupt and painful in a different way. So I kind of feel that when I do really, really know what it's like to just float around untethered, however that looks, for my life, my real life purpose is still held by my higher self. And although my higher self and I have a direct connection at this point, no real middle ground needed,
Yeah.
I still don't get all the answers at one
Mhm.
time.
Right.
So I get guided, and I just know to listen, and more listening. And now I've got a partner who is also former military. And then as soon as she got out of the military, 2 years of solid, like 20 units of college credits plus almost a full-time job, basically having no time to breathe
Yeah.
for 6 years at this point.
Yeah.
And now, and her energy is an octopus energy to just let it all go. And as soon as she starts to let go of the structure, it's like, it's even jarring to me, but it's like, okay, well, we're going to do this journey together. We know that. And all right, well, I've been calling it in. She's been somehow calling it in, not maybe as aware of it as me.
Yeah.
And I know that if I think about it, it throws it, or if it just shows up unexpectedly, it causes me a lot of paranoia. So my only way through it is to just play, to just be present, just to allow, and just go, okay, I'm good, I'm safe. Okay, I'm good, I'm safe. All right, like it's fine, it's fine. And then on the other side of that, like, I don't know what the world's gonna look like to me, what my life experience is going to look like. It's going to be, I imagine, quite different than what it is now, and what it has been, for sure.
And I think that's key, is to be open, right? Oh, be
Right.
open to whatever's coming your way. Because I'm thinking like, well, even 2 years ago, but I want to say like 15 years ago, like I was graduating, and I was probably not thinking, like, I was graduating from university and probably going through a career, but I would never think that I would have a podcast today. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but yet I have so much enjoyment from doing this with you. And for me, it is a calling, in the sense that, like, I love this, and I wouldn't miss it for a minute. Like,
Right.
it's kind of interesting to see, like, yet I was open. It was a little bit scary at first, because I truly believe that anything that is your calling, or anything that you are meant to go in, it sometimes can be scary because
Yeah.
it's being your true self. You're opening up to like your true powers and who you're stepping into your powers basically.
Right. What I
Mm.
have noticed from all the enlightenment experiences that I've had, which match all the enlightenment teachings that I've read, all roads still lead one direction to all roads lead to Rome, as the expression goes. Um, we're all still going the same direction no matter what.
Yeah.
So if you choose a life of being a pharmacist, or if you choose a life of being a floating hippie, or a life of being military and then government work after, or whatever you choose, it's all still going the same direction. Like, there's no way around it. Even if you think that that's not true, you're still going in the same direction as everybody else, whether you believe it or not. And so, um,
Huh.
and so we're all still going to arrive in the same place at the same time. And I'm putting quotes up on both that because neither of those things exist, place or time, where truth lies. And so, we're all part of that fabric, and we're just experiencing multiple levels of it. In some ways, for us to play particular roles that seem abrasive to a lot of people, we're still playing the role of activator for a lot of people to come and get like bounced back into something that's important for them to on their journey. And until we all arrive at this really, and I've got the flower of life tapestry behind me, until we arrive at kind of a perfect knowing of our connectedness that way, we'll still have these varied roles that seem like they're low vibration or high vibration, dude. Like, we'll still have all that, but that's until we remember our oneness and our unity. And then I really feel then that's when we will have the symmetry of maybe not so many rough edges and traumatic experiences and traumatic people and things like that. Because, but so that's where I believe, and I'm pointing again at this flower of life tapestry behind me, that will arrive in our consciousness where we remember that. And so everything that's taking us to that is leading us that direction, no matter what we believe right now, what we feel, what we choose, what we say is our life purpose. It doesn't really matter. It's all interwoven, and it's just an experience, and it's multiple experiences when you talk about multiple lifetimes in multiple dimensions, in multiple forms.
Mm.
So, so really, I mean, source level, the level of oneness or God or whatever you want to call it, has no purpose. It has zero purpose. Purpose becomes a thing the more we start to experience incarnations as humans or alien forms or animals or rocks or whatever.
Yeah. Huh. It's kind of an interesting way to summarize it because you're right. Like purpose is almost like it's the human experience. Like it's from Earth. Like it's not from like the the
The
energy
one.
level or the higher consciousness. But
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. Like we all come on Earth the same way,
Mm-hmm.
and our purpose is the same timeline. Like in the sense of like we are born and then we have a journey and then we die, and that's like
Mm-hmm.
that's the life purpose. You're here to for that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the journey is all about like exploring and moving from one thing to the other that brings you joy. And I think we like to believe that suffering is part of the human experience, but I almost think that it's our mission to get over that suffering.
We're in the time and space, in the realm of time and space, where that has to end now in order for the collective evolution to occur.
Yeah, which is
But it was an important part of the evolution.
absolutely. But I feel letting go of that suffering is aligning us even more for our life purpose. Like that's just basically.
I agree.
Mm.
Which I truly believe is to be returned to oneness as the creator itself and to create something new.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Love this.
Well, that, I guess that would be I don't know, what's a good summary for the podcast then?
A good summary? Life purpose is all about the human experience. That's how I see it. Like it's experiencing it fully. And I think if we want to experience it with the divine self, it's joy, it's play. That's the aspect of it, being our own creator.
Yeah. I mean, I call the awakening journey the journey of remembering ourselves as creator, and remembering why we do the things that we do, and remembering why others do the things they do, and remembering that it's all one, and there is no others, and there's no us. It's all one.
We're all together. We're all in it together.
and not even separately.
Exactly.
Well, cool. What a fun episode.
That was fun. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with me, and listeners also. If you have any, share, feel free to reach out.
Definitely. And we're always looking for new guests, and so now that we've had our first one under the belt, I have a couple more starting to line up.
Excellent.
And I'll share those. We'll share those more along the way.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thanks, Gwen, for being here.
Thank you, Isabel, and all of our listeners. And we're getting more and more listeners all the time, and it's fun.
Yeah, it is. It is fun.
I hope it's fun for them.
All right, see you, everyone.
All right. Have a good night, day, whatever.